Hi everyone from Holy JS. Hi everybody from Russia. I'm pleasure to be here. I'm Romulo. I'm already maybe some people know me from other editions from Holy JS, and I'm web technologist and web evangelist that loves what everything is made on the web. And today I have the pleasure to introduce someone that doesn't need any introduction, but I welcome here Thomas Steiner. Hi, Thomas.
Hello, hi, Holy JS.
Let people know a little bit more about you. I know that everybody knows a little bit of your work, but just share with us all the awesomeness that you do around the web.
Sure. So my name is Thomas Steiner. I work as a developer relations engineer at Google. I'm currently focused on something that we call Project Fugu. So essentially, our objective is to give web developers all the capabilities they need so that they can build amazing applications like Photoshop that we have seen recently on the web, so that they don't need to build on Android, on iOS, on macOS, on Windows, and all these different platforms just to get the same application more or less running. So our objective is really to make the web the universal platform, so that you can deliver all these amazing all these amazing applications on these platforms. This old dream of Java, write once, run everywhere, sort of becomes true with the web and with the new browser capabilities that we work on. So that's roughly what I do.
Oh, that's great, and this is a part of almost everyday jobs for lots of people in this community that likes and love the Fugu project and all the capabilities that brings to the web. And just asking a question, not a spoiler, but what kind of things you are working right now, bringing those features to the web, all the hot things that will arrive soon. Do you have anything?
Sure. So the most recent thing I worked on was probably the Storage Foundation API. Adobe Photoshop is using this a lot internally. And so I'm a developer advocate. I'm not a browser engineer, so I didn't program this feature into the Chrome browser. But my role is to sort of make sure that developers can use this API, that they know what this is about. I wrote a lot of the documentation about this feature. There was a lot of discussion with Apple, with Mozilla folks, how this API should look like. So one concrete piece of feedback that we got was that there's a lot of confusion around different file system APIs in the browser, and we are adding yet another one. So we worked on sort of taking this API and modeling it into the also new file system access API, so now you can sort of use it. It's just another entry point to an already existing API that gives you these high performance files that you can now use in the browser, and that Adobe internally in Photoshop is using for essentially like a swap file, so that when you edit massive Photoshop images, they can just when you need to swap the file from in memory to on disk space, and do so performantly. So that's the most recent thing I did. But then, of course, Fugu is a never-ending story. So there's a lot of APIs that come into different stages of their life cycle. So they start being testable behind the flag, and then they are in origin trial, and then they become stable. In between, you have breaking changes sometimes, so you have interfaces that change, you have things that go away, and so on. So there's a lot of making sure that all the documentation is up to date, that all our code samples are still usable, and so on. So there's a lot of work in this area as well.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, I don't like to point fingers because, but I will point this one is one of the guilties of having, or of we have Photoshop now on the browser. Thanks a lot. Well, before we just start the talk and Thomas show us all the awesomeness that from Fugu project and all these capabilities, I just want to mention that audience, everybody's welcome to the questions. At the end, we will do a round of questions, and we also have our QA session right after the talk. And you can also rate this talk to just share some love with all these new things. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Cool, thank you very much. All right, so hello, HolyJS, здравствуйте. Говорите по-русски чуть-чуть. Меня зовут Thomas, and that's essentially all the things that I can say. So a very warm welcome again from my end. I'm super happy to be here in virtual HolyJS. And yeah, because we're virtually here, I thought I would start this with a virtual badge, because when you come to a conference, you all get a badge. So you can see this is my badge, Thomas Steiner, Developer Relations Engineer at Google. I'm Tomayak on Twitter and on most places on the internet, GitHub, etc. Tomayak.com is also my domain. So this is my virtual conference badge. HolyJS, you can see the little logo here. You can see the classic HolyJS color. So it's the one that I've stolen from the website. And here we have Romulo. Romulo is my invited expert, and he also needs a badge. So let's create one for him. So let me go there. Let me make this Romulo's badge. And Romulo is, let's see, technology enthusiast. So let's change the title as well. And it looks like here. Yeah, okay. And then his Twitter is here, Romulo Centra. So let me edit this here. Ta-da! That's Romulo's badge now. That's it. Thank you for coming to my talk. This is it. This is, of course, not it. This is just the beginning. The title of my talk is something around files, dealing with files. So I thought I'll show you just interactively how you can work with files on the web. And for this, I built this little application. If you're interested, you can use it as I'm speaking, holyjs.glitch.me. You can see the URL here. And if you are done with the badge, you can, of course, reset it. So now it's back to being my badge. And yeah, this is not very exciting yet. All we see here is, well, some content editable fields, but nothing yet, and a big reset button. But I want to point at something. This is at least an installable progressive web app. So if I want to, I can install this app. You can see it's called Hello, my name is. It's using my profile picture as its avatar, and I can install this. And now you can see it's running as a standalone progressive web app. We will actually not use it in installed state quite yet, just because some of the things will be a little easier. So let me uninstall it again and go back and show this app again. But just so you know, this is a progressive web app that is installable. And you have already seen it a little bit. I have the code open for the app here. So Glitch, for those who don't know it, is a platform where you can just create websites, create web applications, and then see them directly as they are hosted by Glitch. So if you're coding along, holyjs.glitch.me is the app that you can see here. If you want to edit, you can see glitch.com/edit #!/holyjs, and then you will land here. If you look at this, there's not a lot of surprises quite yet. It's a super simple, naive application. So we have an index file that is essentially just a couple of buttons. There's the text. There's some hidden things. And you can see already there's a lot of hidden things. So look forward to me unhiding some of these things and making this application a little bit more interactive and a little bit more exciting. The core entry point is a file called script.js. And you can see some of the logic here. So for example, let me just open DevTools and let's inspect the Twitter handle here, you can see that when I'm making changes, that then the URL changes here. So this is a content editable element here. I can't click it, so I can't really open the link because it's content editable. But we will not need this at this stage. This is mostly for editing badges. So you can imagine this were a badge editor at a reception of a virtual Holy.js conference. Yeah, you can see this logic here. There's a lot of like small, stupid things. I want to quickly show you the service worker. So classic at event listener on load, we install a service worker. And if I open the service worker, you can see it's super simple. It just skips waiting on install. When you activate it, it claims its client. It activates navigation preload. And then for the fetch listener, it essentially just tries the preload response if it exists. And if the preload response doesn't exist, it goes to the network, tries to get the data from the network, and in the worst case, it falls back to just the response offline. You can see this is a very naive offline strategy. It's really not production ready. All I wanted is to get the installable treatment here. So this is enough to give us the installable field. Of course, if you build a real application, you need to do a little more. But this is not the point of this talk. The point of this talk is just to have a progressive web app that we will then slowly make a little bit more exciting. So let's go back to script. And if I go down, you can see there's a number of out-commented lines here. And each of those lines is a little story of this talk. And I want to start with the very first one. So you can see there's some feature detection happening here. If clipboard is in Navigator and if write text is in Navigator clipboard, then I dynamically import a file copytext.js. So let's actually do this. And you can see as I'm making changes, the application refreshes. So if I go there now, you can see all of a sudden we have a copy button here. If I click it, you can see the Twitter handle gets highlighted. And let's test if this actually works. If I open a new tab and then paste this in, you can see, yes, this is working. This is my Twitter. If I go back and change this to, let's take Romulo's Twitter again. Rip, like that. If you copy it and paste it here, we can see this goes to Romulo. So we have a copy button, woohoo. But let's look at how this works. Copy text is the file that we have dynamically included now. We have DOM references to a button and to the link. We unhide the button because it was hidden before. We attach a click listener, and then comes the actual copy operation here, navigator.clipboard.write. It's an asynchronous operation, so we await the result, and we look at the link.href. The link.href is, of course, the href here that you can see here. Romulo Thintra is the one that we have now. And we copy this, and now we have it on the clipboard. So if you have ever done clipboard operations before with like the old school approach, you will remember how much pain it was. Luckily, with the new approach, it's a little easier. And what you can see here is essentially just the little highlighting. So I'm just drawing a box shadow around the anchor so that people can see what has been copied. So this is super simple. This is not very exciting yet, but it's a small Fugu API that was added in the context of Project Fugu, the asynchronous clipboard API. But this is the most simple API. So let's start with something else. The next one is feature detection for show open file picker in window. Show open file picker is an API that we will need for the file system access API. So let's actually do this now. And now you can see all of a sudden we do have an image. And when I mouse over this image, you can see that my mouse becomes this little pointer. So if I click it, you can see that it's opening a file picker. You can see here it's focusing on image files. I'm in my pictures folder. So let me actually just open Romulo here. And ta-da, we have now made this Romulus avatar image. And small thing that you may notice, the fav icon also has changed to Romulus picture. If you reset the thing, you can see now it's back to me. So let's change it to Romulo again. I open Romulus picture, so here it is. So that's the file system access API. It's in a file called open.js. So let's have a look. Oh, this is a little longer, so you can see we get DOM references to the image and to the fav icon. We unhide the image because it was hidden before. On the image, we attach a click list now. That does the following thing. We try catch opening this file picker with the show open file picker method, which is asynchronous, so we need to await it. And it returns a set of file handles, an array of file handles, because typically you can open one or multiple files. In this case, I'm only interested in the first one, so I destructure it and I only get the very first file handle. And then let's look at the options parameter that we pass it here. You can see I'm focusing on types that are of description image files. So you've seen this in my dialog here. This free-form description was image files so that people can understand what kind of files I'm opening. I'm accepting anything that is an image, so MIME type image /star. And to be on the safe side, I also list a number of extensions. So JPEG, JPEG with an E, WebP, PNG, ABIF, GIF, SVG, and so on. And these are the types that I want my file picker to accept. I get a file handle back from this. And from this file handle, I can then in the next stage get a file. And you can see this is again an async operation. So I need to await the result. And now I have this file. A file is a kind of special type of blob, so I can use it to create an object URL based on the file, which gives me a blob URL that I can then set as the source of the image and as the source of the fav icon. And in case something happens, you can see my amazing, not production-ready error handling strategy here. I'm just logging the error to the console. So let's verify that this is actually working. If I inspect the image, you can see that the image source is now a blob URL that points to, well, the whatever funny thing the browser has generated for this. And the same goes for the fav icon. So you can see a link rel icon is now the same blob URL. So this is the file system access API for opening files. It gives us access to the file that we can do funny things with. Keep in mind the file handle because we will need this a little later. Okay, so next thing is we go back to script, and now you can see my feature detection becomes a little bit more complex because I'm checking again if clipboard is a navigator, if write is a navigated clipboard. Before it was write text, so this time it's write. Now I'm using the show save file picker. If it's in window, I import copy image. So let me show you what this does. If I go to the app now, you can see now I have a copy button right next to my avatar image. So if I copy this now, you can see I get this little highlighting. So it tells me it has copied the image. So let me open the preview app on my Mac here, preview. I don't need to open a file, but what I want to do is file new from clipboard. So you can see now this file that I've copied on the clipboard is now in preview. So I can continue working on it. So I can make changes to it if I wanted to. I'm not really interested in doing that. So I can just throw this file away. Let's look at how this works. So let's have a look at copy image. If you go to copy image, you can see DOM references to button and image. No big surprises here. We unhide the button if show open file picker is in window. We attach a click listener to the button, and then we try catch again a couple of things. So very first, we get the image source. Then from the response, we return a blob, so that then we have a blob that we can do things with. Up next, we prepare an array. And in this array, we put one element, which is a new clipboard item. And to this new clipboard item, we pass an object which has as the key the type of the blob. So you can see here the new JavaScript notation for dynamically created keys. So this is just using the blob type of whatever this blob is here. So typically this will be image slash PNG because it was my PNG image that I had. And then we give it as a value the actual blob that we have received here. This is our data object. So it's an array of clipboard items. And this array of clipboard items is what we write then onto the clipboard. So you can see navigator clipboard write gives me this. And when we have written this, we do the same thing as before. You can see here this little box shadow that I attach around the image. And then after a second, I remove it. So this is really just a repetitive code. It's not very interesting. The same amazing error handling strategy here. And that is it. So really all we needed was this line, navigator clipboard write. And in this write, we can write any kind of data that is clipboard array, an array of clipboard items that we can then put onto the clipboard. So super simple API, super powerful. You have seen I can just open a macOS application and just from my web application copy dynamically created content into preview, into whatever. If I have Photoshop, if I have Microsoft Paint, whatever installed, I can just copy this into the clipboard and it's working just fine. So next thing is what I want to show, the show save file picker. And this is an interesting one. So we've seen feature detection for this before, but because all of those are independent, I have some duplicate detection here. So if show save file picker is in window, I dynamically import save.js. So let's see what we have now. You can see now we have a second button down here apart from reset. Now we have a save badge file. So let's reset the badge just to be sure it's reset to the initial state. And I can save this now. It's suggesting a file name, tomiak.html. Pictures folder, well, why not? Let's just save it in pictures. And now I have this file saved. If I now go to a new tab and I open the file in pictures, you can see tomiak.html is here. If I open it, you can see it's a badge. And this time I can't edit this anymore. I can't edit this anymore. If I mouse over the picture, there is nothing. If I mouse over the link, it's actually a link. It's pointing to my Twitter. If I view source here, we can see here. If I view source here, we can see it's no filters. It's just one file. So everything is now contained in this one file. So everything is self-contained inside of this file. All the CSS, all the images have been inlined as data URLs, and some changes have been made. Okay, so let's go back, and now let's take this badge and make it again into Romulo's badge. Romulo is technologist. I'm shortening it a little bit. Let's take the Twitter handle again. Rip. So, and now save the badge to the file. And what you see now is that it's not really opening a file picker. So why is that? Let me go here and let's refresh. And you can see that now it has used the data from before. It's Romulo's badge now. I forgot to change the picture. Let's actually just fix this. Let's make this Romulo's picture. Save the badge to file. And if I go back to here, you can see now it's Romulo's badge fully, completely. But I haven't seen yet another file dialog. That's weird. if you remember how you work with files, if you make changes, if you make edits, you typically end up with different files. You end up with tomiak.html in the first case, then you save again, then you have tomiak.html1, then you have tomiak.html2. So in the old times, you downloaded files and you actually were thinking mentally of them as saving. You were actually just downloading new copies. But here, what we have is an actual file that gets saved over and over and over. So whatever changes I make, they will be changed directly on this file. And now something cool, if I now reload this, you will see it has restored the initial state. But if I now make some changes, Romulo, I'm not making the full changes now, so just whatever, change this to Romulo very quickly, and now save. You can see now all of a sudden after the reload, I do get this little information that asks me, let site edit tomiak.html. Polyjs.glitch.me will be able to edit tomiak.html until you close all tabs for this site. So the application has realized that it has still access to the file handle that I have opened before. You can see there's this little file icon here. And if I say, yes, this is fine, edit the file, you can see now this little icon here in the URL bar, and it tells me that this application has access to this particular file. That's good. Let's actually see if it has worked. So if I reload, you can see my partly changed whatever thing is reflected here. So that's a superpower if you think about it. Like, you have reloaded an application and this application still has access to your files. If you remember what you typically expect, you open something like VS Code, it will open your projects folder as before, and on macOS, on Windows, on Linux, whatever, this is exactly what's happening. You still have access to the files. And now we have the same on the web. We can still access the files, and after reload, all these files are still there. So let me show you how this works. First, let me show you the magic of how do we even make sure that the file handle persists. What we do here is, in the IndexedDB key value store, I now have a file that points to the file handle. And you can see it points at tomiak.html. It's a file system file handle of kind file with the name tomiak.html that points to this file on my disk. So when I reload, the file handle will be still on IndexedDB. So I can work with this and use this information to then store changes as I make them, even after a reload. And if I reset the badge, I of course need to forget my file handle. So you can see IndexedDB says data may be stale. So if I actually refresh now, you can see that now I have forgotten the file handle. Now I'm starting fresh. So now I have forgotten the file. You can see this is now technically still there, but if I reload now, you can see this little icon has disappeared. Now I don't have access to the file anymore because I've forgotten any references to it. So for this, we will need to look into a file called save.js. Let's do that. That's a little longer, but you've seen why it's a little longer, because we have so many superpowers. So let me walk you through it. So first, we just use Jake Archibald's IDB key value store. We need get, set, and delete. This is just a convenience function. We need a function blob to data URL that does essentially what it says. It converts a blob to a data URL. That's something that my main script exports. We have DOM references to a couple of things. We need the button, we need the reset button, we need the main element, we need the image, and we need the link. And what you can see here is a global variable called business card. And this business card is nothing initially, but then you can see I'm running this asynchronous function and checking if I have a file in my IndexedDB. So this is using the get function from IDB kvalue store. I'm checking if I have this file on my IndexedDB. If so, I set window business card handle to this file handle that you've seen before in my IndexedDB. I unhide the button so that it is visible. I attach a click listener. And then I have something that I try catch. So first, I need a suggested name for the file. You can see what it's using is essentially just the path name of the Twitter link. So if I go there, it's essentially just using this thing here. So Tomayak, my actual handle, twitter.com/, and then it's using this last part and attaches HTML to it. So this is my suggested name. And then my file handle will be either the dynamically refreshed one that I have from my previous operation. So if it was on IndexedDB, it will be the one from IndexedDB after reload, for example. Or it will be something that I dynamically create using the show save file picker. And you can see here it's defined on window. It's an asynchronous operation. And I'm passing it the suggested name. And this time I'm telling it I want HTML documents. I'm accepting text HTML, HTML. And because I'm exclusively allowing people to save files in HTML, I have this function here that says, or this pointer here that says, exclude, accept all options set to true. Okay, so why is that? Let me quickly show you the difference. In my show open file picker, what I can do is I have here options, and by default it's image files, but I can select all files because maybe I have a very weird image file format that maybe I forgot to mention in my list, but that's also openable by this application. But in my saving file case, it doesn't make sense. So here, if I save this file to file, you can see there's no such way. I can only save HTML files, which makes sense because I can't save to other formats. So I pass this option here, and we do the same as before. We fetch the image, response, get the response blob, save it to a blob. Then we convert this blob to a data URL, because remember, I said before, in these files, I have everything inlined as data URLs. So actually, let's quickly inspect this image here. So you can see it's a data URL that is just this long image encoded as a data URL. Then I fetch my CSS file that before was an external file, but this in this case, I get the response, then I get the response as text and save this whole thing as CSS. And then I create the HTML dynamically. So I put the CSS in a style tag. And then I do something really horrible that you shouldn't be doing in production, but for this app, it works just fine. I'm parsing HTML with regular expressions. I'm removing essentially all the buttons. So you can see here, I'm removing all the buttons. I'm removing all the content editable attributes. I'm replacing all the source attributes so that the source now points to the data URL that I have dynamically created. And now that I have something in my HTML string that I can write to a file, let's actually do this. So from my file handle, I get a writable stream with create writable, which is an async operation. So now I have a writable stream that I can then write my HTML into. And after everything has been written, I need to close the file handle so that now everything is saved. Just to be sure, I store this on the global variable window business card handle so that the handle is ready for the next time. And I also set my file handle to IndexedDB so that it's ready for the next operation. Something that I didn't show is a key down handler. So now I can even enable flows like Command S. So if I'm here, I can just make some changes here. Hello, holy.js. And I'm pressing Command S. And you can see my button gets highlighted here. Yes, I want to save this. Yes, I want to overwrite. That's fine. Replace. And if I go to my file now and I do a reload, you can see it has changed to here. If I go back and make some changes and say bye now, and now I type Command S, you can see I've saved this. I reload, and you can see the changes here. So if you imagine, this is a supernatural flow. You have a file handle, you have access to it, you press Command S, keyboard shortcut like you use in VS Code or whatever, and it's just saving your file. You don't have to think about it. It's just happening. So this is made possible just by listening to Command S with the meta key, and then I'm just dynamically triggering the button click. So I'm manually sort of clicking my button here with code, and that's essentially it. And now all that's missing is if someone clicks the reset button, I need to forget my file handle. So I need to delete the file handle, and I also need to delete the global variable so that the application, when I reset the batch, has no access to the file anymore. Super powerful feature. Very recently, Microsoft, for example, has launched VS Code on the web. So if you go to vscode.dev, you can test Visual Studio Code on the web, and this uses the virtual file system. The file system access API, so that you have access to files directly in your browser. As you have seen here, very natural flow. You can do a lot of amazing things with this. So up next, we have feature detection for get as file system handle on data transfer item prototype. So what does this do? I uncomment the file, and now you can see it's importing drag.js. So what has happened now? Now we have in footer here information that says click the image to change the avatar, or just drop, paste, drag and drop an image onto the thing. So let me do this. Let me reset the batch completely back to initial. Go to my textures folder, take Romulo, and I'm now dragging Romulo on the application. So you can see it's highlighting quickly that tells me this is a drop target. And now I've saved this dropped this file directly here. So if I go to here now, you can inspect it. So now you can see this is a blob URL that I have on the application now. What is cool about this? Well, let me walk you through the file drag.js. Let's go here. It's a couple of, it gets a couple of DOM references: body, document element, image, icon, and footer. It unhides the footer, unhides the image. The document element is essentially just the entire HTML. I'm saving the outline of this, and I only need this for the drag enter, drag leave, and drag over, because I want to draw this little box. So you have seen it quickly when I drag something over the application. It draws this little box here. So that's all this code does. So it's really not exciting. So everything here is just for drawing the box. And the interesting part is then for the drop handler. The drop handler gives me, we need to prevent default, of course. And the drop handler then, so we set the document styling back to before. So essentially just remove the box. And the drop handler then finally gives me a data transfer items array that I can iterate over. Technically, I think it's not an array. It's an iteratable, so I can iterate over it, and I get each item on this iteratable. And I check the kind. If it's a file, it's something that is potentially interesting. And now you can see why I did my feature detection. From this item, I get the handle via get as file system handle. This then gives me a handle. And then I need to check again the kind. And this is kind of weird because I checked the item kind before. The thing is, the naming is a little bit unfortunate here. So you can use the drag and drop API to drag an entire directory. And even if you drag a directory, it will still tell you that this is a file. So this is a little weird because this API has been there before. But at this stage, when we have a true file handle, we can then determine, is this a file handle for a file, or is this a directory handle? So in this case, if the kind is a file, I can then do the thing that I did before. I get the file, and then I look at the file's type. If it starts with image, I can deal with it. Imagine something would drag and drop a Word document on this application, then of course it wouldn't work. But if someone drags an image file on this, then I can do the same thing that I did before. I can open the source and set it to the image, to the icon, reset the box that I draw around it, and that's essentially it. So then I can drop out of the loop at this stage. So this is it. But why is this powerful? Well, because at this stage I get a file handle. So imagine you have something like VS Code on the web, for example. You drag and drop a JavaScript file into your VS Code editor, and with this file handle, we can do the same thing as we did before. We could store this in IndexedDB so that we would have continuous access to this file handle directly from a drag and drop operation. So it looks kind of boring maybe, but it's powerful because we have access to this file handle. And as we have seen in Save, the file handle gives us superpowers that we can use by serializing the file handle into IndexedDB. We can store it with set in IndexedDB, and we're good. So superpower that is enabled by the get as file system handle function here that we now have on the data transfer items prototype. So we are getting closer to the end, but there's a lot more. The next thing is I check if clipboard data is in clipboard event prototype and if show side file picker is in window. So what I'm importing now is a file called paste.js. If I go here, nothing has changed, but if I take a file, let me just reset just to be on the safe side. If I take a file now and I copy it to my clipboard, copy here, I can now go there and press Command V, and you can see it's pasted the file directly into the application. I can also reset this thing, do the same operation again, copy this to my clipboard, and then this time use the browser's paste button. So you can see the same operation. I have pasted Romulo's picture into the application. So let's have a look at what is happening here. I get DOM references to image and icon. You can see the fav icon has changed. It's now Romulo. And I'm attaching to the document a paste listener. I prevent the default, and then I check if I have clipboard data files array of length greater than 0. If there is nothing, I just return. But if there is something, if there is a file, I get the very first one. So if the file is on the clipboard, I can then continue with checking if the file's type starts with image, just as before, blob URL, image, icon, and so on. So nothing exciting here. Drawing the box here, and that's essentially it. So we have access to this file now, so we can do amazing things with the file. At this stage, unfortunately, we don't have access to the file handle yet. So this is one of the missing pieces that is being worked on. But already now we can use this file to just directly paste it into the application. Again, a very powerful system integration, because if you imagine you have something like preview open, you have made some edits in the preview file, you can paste this directly into the application. We've seen before we can also copy stuff. So we can do things like copy this application, icon, preview, go to preview, say file, new from clipboard, and then I can make some changes to it. I don't know. Draw an arrow right on Romulo's nose. Here it is. I can then say I want to copy this entire file. I can go back and paste it in here. And it's a little small, but you can still see it maybe. It has this little arrow here. So super powerful integration with the system clipboard. I've pasted an image and now have an arrow on Romulo's nose. Isn't that nice? Okay, so this is the paste API. Let me continue and go to the next one, which is Launchqueue in window. What the heck is Launchqueue in window? For this, I import a file called file.js. And now for the first time, we need to actually install the application so that we can see it. So let me reload, and now for the first time, actually install this. So you can see I have the application now installed as a self-contained running progressive web app. So you can see these are all my open applications. I can just tap to it just with any other application. Here we are. But let me actually close it. And of course, yeah, it has the icon at the launcher here in macOS. I will close this application now. And now I go back to my Finder, and I go to my pictures folder, and I click on Romulo, and I right-click and I say Open With. And now you can see I have a bunch of browsers installed. That's one of the duties of my job. But one of the applications here is, hello, my name is. If I click this application now, you can see the application opens, and it starts with a dialog, and it says, open file. holyjs.glitch.me wants to open this file, Romulo PNG. Then I have a checkbox that says, don't ask again when opening these file formats in this app, and it lists all the extensions. And I say, yes, this is fine. I always want to allow this, and I allow this now. And you can see now I have opened Romulo's image directly from the command line. So let me reset the badge again. So this is me again, close the application. And if I do the same thing now, open with, hello, my name is. You can see that now, without the dialog, directly it has opened Romulo's file. So you can imagine, again, the superpowers of this. If you have an application, holy.js application, whatever, you can establish a new file extension, .holy.js, for example, and you can have your .holy.js file automatically be opened with a holy.js application that you can program as a progressive web app, and it integrates directly with the operating system. If you wanted to, you could even go as far as saying, I want to make the default application for PNG images, hello, my name is. I'm obviously not going there because I don't want all my PNG images to open with hello, my name is. But if I wanted to, I could. So super powerful feature, super tight integration with the operating system. And all we need to do now is understand how this works. So we need to look at file.js. You can see it's surprisingly short. We get DOM references to image and icon. We unhide the image. And then we do something Launchqueue. So it's a new thing on the window object. We set a consumer that gets launch parameters as a parameter. Then we check if these launch parameters include an array of files that is greater than 0 length. If not, we return. But if it does, we get from the launch parameter files the handle. From the handle, so we iterate over this. From the handle, we get the file. Now we have same thing as before. If the file type starts with image, I create an object URL, blah, blah, blah. It's all the same as before. And then I break out of this loop. So superpower with just a couple of lines of code. I like this very much. I need to show you one more thing because this is possible thanks to an entry in the web app manifest. So you can see here, I need to register these file handlers and say the action that happens when I open a file should be just to open the main application at slash or point slash in this case. And I accept images of type JPEG, JPEG, WebP, PNG, la, 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 la. So nothing exciting here. But this needs to be in your web app manifest paired with the launch parameter, launch queue, and the launch parameters that you iterate over. So this is this, but it's not over yet. We have more. The next thing I do is I check if Storage Foundation is in window. If you recall my introduction, Storage Foundation was the way of getting access to super powerful files that have performance guarantees, so that these kind of files allow you to do super fast write operations without, for example, waiting for the write operation to be committed. But let me show you how it works. Now I can also open it. Can search for this directly in the regular shortcut for macOS applications. And now what we see is a new table. So now I can store the badge in the browser. If I do that, it will now create an internal storage foundation file that is stored in the file. It's not a file that you can expect somewhere to find on your operating system's Finder or Windows Explorer, whatever. It's a file that is internally stored by the browser, and it's private to the origin of this application. So private to holyjs.glitch.me, what you can see here. And this, as I said before, is kind of a file that has performance guarantees, so that you could use it for something like a swap file, as Adobe Photoshop have done. You can read the content. So I'm just logging here the first couple of lines. You can see this is the CSS of this application. You can, of course, delete it. If I reload the application, let me reload, you will see that the file is still there, so it's persisted. If I close the application and restart it, it's also still there. So the file is there. I can make a new batch. So if I store this now, Romulo Sintra, oops, like this. I can say I want to store, well, let me change the name actually, Romulo. I can store this in the browser. So now we have two files. I can, of course, read the content. I can close the application and restart it. Hello, my name is. The two files are still there. I can delete one of them. So let's delete me, and Romulo survives. Close the application, start it again. So you can see, you get the drill. All these files are there. They're persisted. They're private to this origin. You can't see them. They have a length and so on. If I wanted to, I could now, of course, make some super fast, crazy write operations or read operations on these files. For my toy example, it's not really useful. But if you are Adobe, if you're Photoshop, if you need to store massive amounts of data in the browser for a particular application, the Storage Foundation API is your new friend. It's in a file called storage.js. So let me go there. You can see it's a little longer, but it's mostly longer because I'm dealing with all these different table operations here. Oops, sorry, didn't want to open a new tab. I wanted to open the application again. So you can see there's this little table with the actions button and so on. But the actual write operation is storage foundation somewhere here. So we get access to window.storagefoundation.open. And I have to say, this is the origin trial version, so the finally released version that we will be working with, and that also Adobe is using. It's not using window.storagefoundation. Remember, in the beginning, I told you this was causing confusion, but here you can still see the old version. So we open a new file with the suggested name. Then we have this file ready. We can then request capacity, which is the HTML strings length. So it's the same horrible code as before. I can then get a buffer via calling text encoder.encode HTML. Then I set the file's length to 0. Then I write to the buffer at position 0. I write to the file, the buffer at position 0. I flush the content, and then I close it. And then I call list files, which is just a function that will update my table. You can see I can get access to all of these. So as I said, this is kind of the outdated variant of doing it. If you want to read about the latest and greatest, it's now documented right at the File System Access API. And if I go to the table of contents, it's here. Accessing files optimized for performance from the origin private file system. So now it's all integrated with the File System Access API. So this is kind of the new way of doing it. If you are familiar with streams, this is definitely helpful here. So essentially the same code as before, just using a different entry point. So we start with this new create access handle that we will use from a file. So this will be created in place so that it's created directly as needed in place. So this is the Storage Foundation API. We are almost done, and for the final example, I'm needing an Android phone, and unfortunately, I was ordering Nfc tags and they didn't arrive in time. But if you have Nfc tags at home, and if you have an Android phone at home, you can just go to what is the URL? holyjazz.glitch.me and test this at home. I do have my Android phone, so I can sort of show you what is going on. Let's refresh this application here. So I'm not sure if this is visible very well, but if you run this application on an Android phone, you will see that now you have a new button that says write badge to NFC. I apologize, this is probably horrible, but maybe you can still see a little bit. Try it at home. And if you then click this button, it will ask you, this is the text that you want to write. So you can see it's essentially just taking the badge's text. If I then say, yes, okay, this is the text. In the next step, it asks me if I want to allow writing to an NFC tag. It's probably horrible to see, but there's this permission prompt where it's asking, should this phone get access to the NFC chip? And if you allow this, you can then write to an NFC tag. As I've said, I've ordered NFC tags. They didn't arrive on time, unfortunately, for this talk. So apologies for that. Hopefully you can try it at home. But let me nevertheless show you the code for this, nfc.js. So we get references to button and to the card. So that's just some of the inner components of this card here. We unhide the button, we attach a click listener, and then in the next step, we create a new NFC reader. So it's called ndef reader that we store here. Then we get the text. So it's just some horrible inner text operation on this card element here. I'm showing the text so that people can see it. And then in the next step, all you need to do to write to an NFC tag is ndef.write.text. And that's it. So writing to NFC is essentially this one line paired with the NDF reader. Then all we do is we highlight the button once the operation has succeeded. So you can see it's async. So I waited. Once it has been successful, I get this. And in case something goes wrong, I, in this case, alert even. Oh, I alert the error, not just console error it. But here in this case, it may be helpful to actually alert the error what is going on. So this is NFC writing. And if you go back to the script, this is the end of everything that was commented out. But we have this application running in Chrome. Hello, my name is. Here it is. And if I show you the network panel of this app, if I go to here, yeah, that's fine. And I reload, you can see it's loading a bunch of files. So obviously it's loading everything that we need. But if I go to the filter and the filter for NFC, you can see on desktop, I'm not loading NFC because oops, I mistyped, but NFC, you can see that there is nothing because on desktop, I don't have an NFC reader. In my Mac book here on mobile, I do have this. But why is this entire pattern useful? Well, let's open the same application in Safari, and let's even take Safari Technology Preview, so the latest and greatest that we have on Apple's end. And let me open this holy.js.
Well, I'm amused by your presentation, Thomas. We still have 1 minute left just to
This is exactly the minute we need. Yeah, that's exactly the minute we need. I'm running this application now on Safari. You can see I can still use the baseline function, so I can still make this Romulo's badge, change this to whatever. I can still copy the string, which probably now is just some random non-existing Twitter. Correct. This does, of course, not exist. But you see the copy operation still works. So we have a baseline operation that is still functional. We can reset. But if I go to the network panel, you can see that these are all the files that are being loaded. So I have progressive enhancement at its best here. So on Safari, I don't punish the Safari user by downloading a lot of application files that the Safari user can't use because Safari doesn't support these APIs quite yet. But on a browser that supports them, I load them. So progressive enhancement, super important pattern, and I've shown you this in action. And this marks the end of my talk. I want to go back to the PWA here. If you have any question, you can see my virtual badge, Thomas Steiner. I'm Tomek on Twitter and most places on the internet. And with that, thank you very much for listening. And hopefully this was fun and entertaining.
Well, it was great talk. We are out of time. We have few questions. I just invite everybody on the room and everybody that is watching the talk to follow the link to our Zoom discussion. The link will be shared soon by our organization. And let's join and ask Thomas. See you in a tick. Okay.